Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of World Cup Central. The World Cup has kicked off. It kicked off last night, and we were here to bring you the first game in the 2026 FIFA World Cup. This show, of course, is that show for you, your one-stop shop for everything World Cup stuff. And this is the place where we break down all the results. We get into the review, the previews of all the games that will be happening. For the next 38 days, you want to stay logged with us, Channel 1 TV, and 104 matches that will be coming your way, the World Cup. And this is the place for all the updates. Remember, the show is an interactive one, so you would want to send us your thoughts on what we'll be discussing. Today, we'll take you back to what happened last night at the Estadio Azteca, where host nation Mexico beat South Africa by 2-0. And then, if you were asleep, we saw South Korea also beating Czechia by 2-1. So we'll bring you that highlight, and then we'll build up to what is to come later tonight at the BMO field. One of the host nations, Canada, taking on Bosnia and Herzegovina, and then it follows in that order. Let's take a very quick break. When we return, you know what we'll do? I'll get to introduce my guest, and then we'll get into the conversation. Right, welcome back from the break. I'm Gabi Ofer. This is World Cup Central on Channel 1 TV show. It's very interactive, so send us your thoughts on what we'll be discussing today. Before we get into all of the highlights, let me introduce my guest, Jude Duncan. He's here with me. Jude, it's good to see you again. We were here last night to run through the opening game. Today, I just want to start off real quick. Let's get into it. The innovations that we've seen, a few tweaks here and there. We know about some sensors installed in the ball, reads the trajectory of the ball and all of those things. What do you have for us? What do you know about all of that?
I mean, it's the most technologically advanced World Cup we've ever seen, and rightly so. Everything about this World Cup is big. The first time three countries are coming together, the most games we've ever seen at a World Cup. So in an era where we're seeing technologically advanced quite quickly, you'd also expect that the biggest game in the world would also adapt, and for that reason we've seen that the kind of technological trends being used in this World Cup is at an all-time high. In fact, from the field up onto managing other things around the World Cup, and I'm referring to issues like security, fund coordination, we are seeing high-level technology being used in the process. And I'll start off with one that rarely gets talked about because it's not seen as part of the game itself. But of course, when World Cup issues come up, issues around security become very topical. We know of the ongoing geopolitical tensions, right? And how it's led to, in some instances, the refusal of visas for some persons and all of that. Now, at this World Cup, we are seeing for the first time the use of robotic dogs, right, to check or aid dogs, exactly, to check and aid police officials in respective host cities to deal with issues with crime. So these robotic dogs have installed cameras in them, so the persons at the back end are able to see whatever is happening. So for example, if there are concerns around a particular locality, or there's some brewing tensions or anything happening that clearly is in contravention with the laws of the area, these dogs can be deployed, not necessarily to go and back and start biting people, but to give officials an idea of what is happening. Then of course, actual manpower can come in place. But when you come to the game itself, like you rightly said, for the first time, the official name for the ball, right? The Trionda, and I think the Trionda, I believe it means the Mexican waves or something of that sort. It's going to have a small inertial measurement unit chip sensor, right, placed inside the ball. Now, what this does, like you rightly said, is to track every movement of the ball and give, to a large extent, an idea of its movement and the elements of the pace of the ball and all of that. All that to help with officials, right, get a better sense of judgment during the game. So definitely it will aid with, some calls the referees or match officials will be making. Remember that famous Portugal game where Bruno Fernandes crossed the ball, hoping to get someone touch the ball, and it looked as though Ronaldo, you know, and there was a whole debate as to whether
as to who got the final
Ronaldo
touch of the
touched
ball.
the ball and all of that. Now, with a kind of inertial measurement sensor in the ball, it will give us a perfect idea. So if there's a touch whatsoever, this AI-empowered chip in the ball makes it easier for us to know all of that. Another very important trend we've seen with the World Cup has got to do with the fact that there are going to be 3D models of the players, of all the 1,248 players will have their customized 3D model. So, of course, it helps with the VAR decisions when the players are on the field of play. And, of course, we are, for the first time, also going to see the linesmen get audio alerts, right? So the VAR has been more like, you know, VAR is video assistant referee, but like the assistance is top notch now, because now with the kind of technological advancements we are seeing and what FIFA intends to deploy during the competition, the linesmen will be given extra protection and extra assistance, right? So initially the technology,
decisions, right?
yes, we saw this deployed at the FIFA Club World Cup, where again Chelsea won under very impressive circumstances. But this time round at the Club World Cup, it was a 10-centimeter radius. Before, if you're an offside position, you know, exceeding 10 centimeter, or no, at the time 50 centimeter, I beg your pardon, that was when the technology was able to get a clear sense of it. But this time now it's been perfected, it's been improved and narrowed down to just 10 centimeter. But of course, you know, it's a fail-safe measure, because definitely there'll still be room for human discretion, right? So all of that still on board. And of course, for the first time at the FIFA World Cup, we are going to see, and this is the final point, the use of video referee cams. Referee cams.
Just about raising that, because it was at the Club World Cup, right?
Exactly. In fact, we've seen it at major leagues. In the EPL, for example, we saw it being used. And for the first time, FIFA has adopted it for the World Cup. And of course, for the EPL, it was under very rare circumstances where you see like actual footage from the ref cam. But if you watch the game against Mexico and South Africa, and of course the game against South Korea and Czech Republic, you get a sense that every now and then the footage is incorporated in the game. So these are the new changes, and it's all aimed at making this World Cup a very easy one for, you know, the American or the host nations, let me say, to assimilate. Yesterday I was explaining to you on the show that if you look at the cultural, you know, backdrop of this World Cup, football is not the biggest sport in America. It's not the biggest sport in Canada. They have games like ice hockey, they have games like basketball, American football, baseball that definitely come top of the list, right? So there's this whole trend of trying to create a culturally relevant kind of football package, right? And some of these things are ways of adapting. Of course, another edition of the show, we get to talk about some other new, you know, things coming up. Of course, for those in America, they tell you that when they watch the game, when they go for the hydration break, they see all sorts of ads on the screen.
I saw that as part of the match reports that came out. I mean, the line that you just put out, that they were using those moments to then see all of those ads popping up.
Exactly. And that is a very North American thing. For those who've been there, they'll tell you. So it's a different World Cup, rightly so. But also, you can say based on all that is at play at this World Cup, it is also the most technologically advanced competition. Hopefully, the technology doesn't fail.
Exactly. One thing I actually like about this new era of technology hitting the World Cup is that we as journalists or anybody covering this World Cup, in terms of data, if we want to tie to the sensor that we would see installed in the balls, it helps with the work, because now then it makes your work more easier. I say that because the last, that example you cited with the Bruno Fernandes and Cristiano Ronaldo conversation, it carried on as to who
got a
had
final
a final
touch.
touch. Now we don't have to be dragging and pulling and settling the scores and all that, and all of these things will help with. Let's get into the action from last night. Let's start off from the Estadio Azteca. If you missed the game last night, maybe you were busy or unable to catch the game on Channel 1 TV. Here's the highlights for you. Julian Quinones and also the other striker getting the second goal for Mexico, beating South Africa by 2-1. Enjoy. All right, so the host nation, Mexico, beating South Africa by 2-0. Raul Jimenez, you realize that he shed a few tears after grabbing the second goal. I'll tell you why. He's been at the last 4 editions of the World Cup, actually not had enough time to play for the Mexican national team. And it was his first goal for Mexico at the World Cup, right? And so you can understand why he caught up those bits of mixed emotions to do so in front of your home fans in the opening game against South Africa. Jude, let me take quick thoughts from you on that game. Look, if we allowed that game to continue till now, I'm not sure South Africa would have scored a goal. I say so because when you look at the XG for the two teams, after the game, Mexico had 2.83, South Africa had 0.83. The Mexicans themselves were not too happy with the way they didn't take advantage of that numerical advantage that they had by capitalizing and then getting more goals. Just your thoughts about this, what we saw from last night.
I mean, it was a game where I definitely expected more goals. I didn't see it ending as a game where we would have had more red cards than goals, right? Because I was saying that if you look at the kind of players on the field, for South Africa, you look at the likes of Fidalgo. A lot of people forget he's a Real Madrid Academy product, right? High prospects, right? Of course, they didn't really live up to the hype around his club football, but anytime he's donned the national team jersey for Mexico, he is absolutely one of the best in that area of the pitch, and I'm referring to the central midfield. So you have Brian Gutierrez, you have Fidalgo, and you have Eric Lira. I mean, in that 6th role, absolutely bossing it. And I said on the show,
smart play from him to have read what Rowan Williams was trying to do, playing out from the back, and then pressing that defense.
I'll come to that. So the game on paper to begin with, right, was more like the Mexican side clearly had the upper hand. And I was also going to say that if you are coming into this game on the backdrop of having played in the Azteca Stadium, you know, and not lost since 2013, right? And the only loss coming as far back as 2013 years against Honduras, you know, it gives you a sense. Well, you could argue to say that they are a team that plays in the CONCACAF region, and for that matter, the kind of opposition they will face usually in World Cup qualifying games are not top-notch. But the point is that they've played very impressive games against Portugal at the same Azteca Stadium. They didn't concede, they didn't lose the game. They played against Belgium. They've played against the likes of Iceland, where they completely demolished them. They played against Ghana, right? Largely Team B, but some of the players in that game featured as in the opening game as well. So the point is that there's a certain level of sharpness you lose if you're a host nation, primarily because you don't get to play in the qualifier round. And when everybody else is playing, you're literally at home playing a few friendly matches. So that sharpness is usually not there at the start of the competition. And the fears were there because the last competitive game Mexico played was on July 6th last year against USA in the Gold Cup final, which they actually won. So clearly there were concerns, but they saw the problem ahead of time and decided to play quite a number of friendly games. So I think that sharpness issue was dealt with. Now you come fast forward to this game, you get a sense that they really wanted to kill the game early, get the goal, and you know, because the analysis is such that when you win your first game, it puts you in a very good position to advance. Now all they need is a draw, and they have a 64% chance of going to the next round and still get to play their games at the Azteca Stadium or the Mexico City Stadium. So for me, when I saw the lineup of Alvarado, of Quinones, and of course Raul Jimenez, I was quite certain that they had the lethality to really get the goal. And I wasn't really surprised 2 out of these 3 of the front 3 had a goal. I definitely expected more considering the kind of work rate the midfield 3, you know, of Brian Gutierrez, Fidalgo, and Lira were doing. Another quick thing to touch on, of course, they got a goal early in the first half. Midway through the second half, they got another goal. But at 2-0 and South Africa a man down, they were completely in a very comfortable position. They lost focus and South Africa capitalized on a counter. Cesar Montes.
Yeah, Montes.
You know, fouled the player, and of course they also had a red card. You can debate it to say he wasn't really the last man. Other angles point to the fact that there were two Mexican players who seemed to have covered, you know, for him. So that's the game, really. That's what it has become now. I think generally it was a game that was wrapped up by the 60th minute, and there was no way for South Africa into the game, partly because we couldn't clearly see what the style of play was. At one point, they were trying to play from the back, and the point is that they clearly don't have the range, right, and the technicality to be a team that can play from the back. And if you look at the goal, it was so off. Usually for players who receive the ball from the keeper to the World Cup, out of the 26 players, 16 of them are coming from the South African Premier League, the PSL. Right, and out of the 16 that are coming from the PSL, 8 of them play for Orlando Pirates, who just won their league after I think 14 years. So it means that they've been playing some really good football and they know themselves. But the World Cup, in all honesty, and I mean, the levels really at the World Cup and the PSL are not the same. So I think that there's a huge task for Hugo Broos going into the next game. We'll probably need to reassess the style of play, because clearly whatever they tried to do, I'm not sure what they did, and I'm sure you don't even know what, you can't figure out for yourself what they tried to do from the back, you know. But that being said, they'll need to figure it in the next game.
Yeah.
And Mexico themselves, I don't think they were stellar in the opening game, but that is what it is. You just need to do what you have to do to go past. It's not really sometimes about the most flowery of play or very beautiful football.
Yeah.
It's about just dealing with what is ahead of you and getting ready for the next. And I think they did that quite well. And they are good to go for the next game.
Well, Bernard, welcome to the show.
Thank you. And when I'm calm like that, I don't like it, I know.
Is everything all right?
Everything is positive.
Okay, great. Yeah. Talk to me. I want us to do the South Africa conversation. Did you like the approach from Hugo Broos? And do you think that they self-destructed, looking at the errors and the way they set up against Mexico?
I think it's even beyond that margin. They are aware, the players are aware of whatever that's happening in their country. And they know that there's huge pressure, because they are one of the 10 African countries that are
to start off,
to start off showing up in this competition, and they are the most talked about even before kickoff or getting their first game in the FIFA World Cup. I think that is what you describe as distract a little. So they affected their game. They look scattered. Look, this is. The PSL, like Jude rightly said, is one of the leagues in Africa that we try and compare, some leagues to. For example, our league in Ghana, we try to compare it. We talk about how financially stable they are, how they're able to attract big players when they come to CAF Interclub competition, how they're able to play and showcase or sell their football. If we are getting into a World Cup and this is the country of the CAF president, we should be able to sell very good football. But South Africa were scattered, and they make the argument of including a locally based player in a national team quite difficult.
Questions the quality, right?
The questions the quality, because if you've gotten, like Jude rightly said, a number of these guys play at club level, be in the national team. Look, you have to be able to sell good football. There should be that fluidity, the cohesion. They just didn't understand the philosophy or the approach that Hugo taught them to go into the
and that's
game.
A very good point that you've raised. Sorry to cut you, because I watched South Africa at the AFCON and then the qualifiers. Look, what I saw last night is huge. It's like day and night.
Yeah.
It felt like Hugo Broos suddenly was trying to experiment with the approach against Mexico, comparing or juxtaposing it to how they used to play at the AFCON and the AFCON qualifiers.
Yeah.
Sorry, the World Cup qualifiers.
World Cup qualifiers. Strangely,
I don't know if the occasion got to him and trying to be very conservative, not open up too much, but I don't think the approach was the best from South Africa.
Sometimes it's difficult from the managerial perspective, right? Because you teach the players everything you need them to want to exhibit on the pitch. This team is one of the teams that's touched base to try and acquaint themselves with the weather, try and familiarize, to you know, play good football. And you exhibit that, I feel it's shameful.
Okay.
You cannot be playing at a point in time for Manchester United was David De Gea, who was always the player of the month and you know, what have you. But you can't have Ronwell Williams be the best player, you know, in the game.
Yeah.
He's the goalkeeper for crying out loud. We understand he's the captain and all of that, and he needs to lead by example. But he did that. What of the rest of the players? The defenders were in sixes. They didn't know their movement was super poor. Look at the ball that led to the goal. The keeper gave you a ball. You're unable to scan. Come on, gentlemen. You have to be able to scan as a defender. I assume he was playing the number 5 role in that sport. So you scan and look at who is, you know, on your right and left, who is close to try and, you know, break passes, like do short passes and then advance it.
Yeah.
They didn't know what they were doing. I feel it is bad to start a competition like this, knowing that 10 years ago exactly, this is the same opponent you met at this stage of the competition, the opening stage of the competition. It's why I'm trying to say that, look, I feel they have a bigger problem with what's happening in their country, and that's also hanging in the balance, that there's pressure that, look, just go win the game and let the tension in South Africa ease out. Okay. But they seem not to understand that. So, you know, sometimes when players overthink it, they tend to make mistakes and they can't find the simple passes that will progress the game and give you the right result. So I feel, look, the second point or the other bone of contention, then again, is what Jude draws our attention to, the red cards. I feel that the first 2 cards was just okay, you know, but the third was a bit controversial.
Yeah. The third went to Mexico.
The third is why I think it's a
And
you know,
for purposes
I mean,
of
do you think it's a bit controversial? I mean,
for purposes of context, right? In the previous 2 editions of the World Cup, 2022, 2018, we saw a total of 4 red cards in the entire competition, right? And I have an opening game where you've seen 3 red cards being brandished. Clearly, it's one of the dirtiest opening games we've seen in a long time.
Oh no! I mean, not in the negative.
I get you. But that record will still be there because it's never happened. It will be there. Anytime there's an opening game.
It gives you also a sense of the kind of officiating to expect at the competition. Because again, for me, that Cesar Montes play line, it was a sequence of reckless play. Okay. In fact, the Mexicans will feel hard done by, because in that build-up to the counter, they felt their player had been fouled, and you know,
and that was ignored.
And that was ignored, obviously, by the referee, and it led to a counter. And Cesar recklessly. I mean, it was definitely a foul, definitely a yellow card. As to whether it's a red card, you know, is debatable. You know, anybody can debate as to why they, you know. But again, the point is that I've heard some Mexican commentators say that they felt the referee made some questionable calls, right? Okay. So, for example, they had a penalty appeal where, again, the South Africa player, I think it was Mufuken, in the box, you know, just he literally zoomed into Raul Jimenez with no intent whatsoever for the ball, right? And it was waved on. There were a few other 50-50 calls they felt went the South African way,
and
right?
That was also given.
And so it went for South Africa when they felt it could have gone for them. So again, but the point is that when you're a host nation, considering the fact that you are playing an 85,000 capacity stadium, it's likely that out of the 85,000 fans in there, 90% of these fans are from Mexico, supporting the Mexican team. So I think that we should see a lot more firm and strict, right, kind of officiating going forward in the game. And
we have to go for a break.
You could even see it in the substitutions. So each time there was a substitution, the 10-second rule.
Yeah.
So
the fourth official begins to count.
Yeah. The players were running.
Yeah.
Ideally, you see that for a team leading 2-0, they are casually walking
and trying to waste time.
Clearly, Charlie, we are not.
Won't take any.
No.
But I mean, when we come back, when we come from the break, I want to touch on the issue. I'm going to expand a little the issue. He speaks of officiating, because I feel from where we are coming from the CAF, the final of the African Cup of Nations, FIFA is going to be strict. This is one of the top officials in Brazil. And well, I said we'll come after from the break, but I'm just,
let's go for a break. When we come back, we'll have to we'll bring you some more reactions from the game that you missed at dawn, and also try and tie it to what the points Bernard is trying to build about officials for this year World Cup. This is World Cup Central on Channel 1 TV. We'll be back after this. All right, welcome back from the break. This is World Cup Central on Channel 1 TV. I'm Gabi Ofer. Let's hear from you. If you're watching us from your comfort of your home and across the world, leave your thoughts with us. Now, let's take you to the next game. South Korea beating Czechia at the Guadalajara Stadium. Enjoy.
To Sofal gets ready to send in this long throw. And it's headed rear to Czech Republic 1.
All right, so South Korea beating Czechia by 2-1. Let's look at the group standings in that Group A, because you have 2 wins from Mexico and then another win coming from South Korea. So Mexico on top because they did not concede. They have a clean sheet. They beat South Africa by 2-0. South Korea follow second. In that order, they have 3 points. They conceded 1 goal, and then Czechia or Czech Republic are third on the table. And then South Africa are fourth on the table. A goal difference of -2. Yeah, a goal difference of -2. Let me come in studio. The group is really looking nice. South Africa bottom.
Look, this is wide open, right? This is a
you
group.
think so?
Yeah, I think it's wide open. Look,
the two teams
Czech are going to come strong in their second game.
So Czech will be taking on South Africa.
Absolutely.
And then Mexico will be taking on South Korea.
Imagine South Africa.
They
are poor footballers. They not poor as in financially, but in terms of play,
no quality, right?
No quality in there. And I feel that lack of quality in that setup is going to expose them even more, because now there's pressure. The whole of Africa seems to be on the neck of the South Africans. Czech were able to hold South Korea for a minute in the first half. It was 0-0. At the point it looked boring, but that was tactical, instructions at display, because they were really being careful and all of that. And South Korea had the better advantage of that first half, where they were, I could count about 7 Lees in that team. So in my mind, I was just running commentary at that dawn. Lee leaves it for Lee. Lee tries to look for Lee. and you know, this team, the fluidity is not only in their name when you are running commentary or when you are trying to picture the game in your head. It's also about how they are able to quickly pass around and move with the ball in that sequence, and they're able to create chances as well. And I feel even though in the first
I think
half,
it's actually typical of the Asian teams. They move the ball real quick. If you watch Japan, similar playing style. You don't
watch
have
their players in the Premier League.
Yeah.
I mean, Son, we've seen him, over time, what he's able to do in the Premier League. We've seen Jin-Sung Park when he used to play for Manchester United.
Kim In-jae.
Their quickness and all of that.
Very swift.
And it all came to play. So I realized that Czech were going to suffer in this game, but they would need to take their chances if they are able to. Recall Ghana played one of these Asians. It's the same South Korea, right?
Yeah, South Korea at the last World Cup.
At the last World Cup.
And we played them again in the Kirin Cup, and then they beat us.
But we were able to score goals.
Yeah.
So you take your chances. They are going to hurt you, but you take your chance because they are quick on the ball, and everything is their whole being, not only in their minds and how they move, with the ball. I feel this group is wide open. For Mexico, this is celebration time because events are going to turn around. I have a few South Korea are going to lead this group.
Really?
Yeah. Which is their next game?
Well, Mexico would be playing all their games in front of their fans. You think that South Korea can? Yeah,
is it like you said it from 2015? Look, or 2013, right?
13, yeah.
The last
Azteca was in 2013 against Honduras.
This is the same venue that Maradona won his World Cup. The same venue Pele won his World Cup. It has gone through phases of change. It was closed down for a minute for rehabilitation, or if you want, what's the right word we use here? Maintenance works, right? And it comes with that new feel the fans will need to enjoy. But the South Koreans, they know how to grind results, most importantly, because of how they play. Look, there's a bit of quality in this Mexican team, and I understand that they are trying to not call the people of, like in Ghana, we're trying to look for the guys who were born of I've forgotten the right word to use, but Ghanaian, the diasporan guys to want to come in. Mexico would want to now invite, cloud their team with, but they want to rather introduce their diasporan guys into their junior setup so that they can grow, understand their culture, and play there. I know the Dome is going to paint a picture. The South Koreans are aware. They don't listen to the energy around. That's why I feel they would lead this this group, and it's wide open. Maybe Mexico might just be third, and for South Africa, I'm sorry, Czech would get a result surely in their next game.
All right. Let me take some messages. This one says, "Good afternoon, Channel 1 TV. I'm Augustine. You're really doing a great job and analysis. Keep it up. One on the World Cup, the entire country of South Africa national team is frustrated, and Korea Republic is a team to watch. I really like their style of play." Another one, he says, "Hello guys, his name is Avinash. He says he's watching us from Sierra Leone, and asking if you are showing the games live. Yeah, the game, some of the games are live on this channel for you, so you want to stay with us, and also we'll bring you all the updates. Let's get to Group B, right? Because later tonight,
let me have a quick
real quick
on this. I think that if the reverse of the game was going to be South Africa, Czech Republic, Mexico, South Africa, South Africa, Czech Republic, then Mexico, South Korea. No, actually, that's what is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
But if it's the reverse, so maybe South Korea, we're going to play South Africa, and Czech now play Mexico, would have been done by the second round.
Oh, I
agree.
Pretty much, because
you think the next round of matches would?
Because now Mexico, South Korea is an open game.
Yeah.
And again, let me just briefly touch on the South Korea team. They've not really peaked, right?
I agree.
And if you look at a player like Son at 33, he's probably looking at this and say this is his last competition. He had so many chances in the game. He flubbed his lines. There were some times he couldn't even sort out his leg before a strike, and the ball was cleared in front of him. So I think that he's still the biggest weapon for South Korea in this competition. And when he finally comes alive,
the first South Korean player to play in 4 World Cups, though.
He's been phenomenal. He's been absolutely, arguably one of the greatest to come from South Korea. So I think that he's still a very good player. If he comes alive in this competition, they can really go all the way out. I think against Mexico, they'll struggle just because Mexico is the host nation.
Yeah.
They are more physical and everything around the bars of being a host nation. The South Korean team themselves, like I was saying, they've really struggled in the past. Now, remember, they had Jürgen Klinsmann as a coach, and they sacked him and brought in this manager. When this manager came in, there were concerns around his pedigree and whether he had what it takes to really take on the job. In fact, he had to go as far as their National Assembly to get them to...
So much on...
Exactly. So against the run of play, they scored. And you could clearly see that the South Korean defense were in their 60th and 70s. But again, if you look at the style of play, there's a clear pattern to how they play, right? Where they have a lot of attacking football. Well, it depends on the opponent. But you could clearly tell that when they were man down, they were still the better attacking side. A lot of their players were still in the half of or in the final third of the Czech Republic team. So I look at the first goal and I'm saying maybe the Czech Republic goalkeeper Kova came out of his line a bit too much.
Oh, I think you should give credit to the South Korean attacker. He sweeps about 3 players off his margin.
Brilliant
and still
goal.
had the timing of the ball and
But
the
I
post
think
and
that
its margins
I'm
as well.
looking at the defense and the defensive line. There were 2 attackers close to the 2 defenders close to the attacker, right? I think he came out of his line too early. And the second goal as well.
I actually think it was a lazy approach on the part of the defender. He was just sleeping on the job.
The second goal.
And the second goal as well. The second goal as
that's
well.
what I'm talking about.
Both the defender and the keeper have questions to answer. So it's a good result. You need to win your first game and you're good. I think that the South Korean team, irrespective of the outcome against Mexico, they will beat South Africa because, again, they are a better team and they'll possibly progress to the next round.
All right, South Korea, their last tournament in 2022, they exited in the round of 16. Let's see if they can better that record. Let's take it to Group B. Canada will be in action later today. But before that game, there will be an opening ceremony too in Toronto. People were asking me that, would we have, the opening, and there'll be one in the US.
And then you say yes, and they ask why.
Yeah, no, it's three host nations. So
That's
yeah, it's
simple.
the first time you're experiencing that. So there'll be an opening ceremony in Canada later tonight, and then later on the field they take on Bosnia and Herzegovina. Enjoy this preview, and then we'll come back and get into the game real quick. All right, so Canada taking on Bosnia and Herzegovina later tonight at the BMO field in Toronto, or you want to say the Toronto Stadium. FIFA says let's use the names of where the various stadia are situated. So Toronto Stadium for sponsorship reasons. After the World Cup,
always looking at money.
Yeah, we go back to the name.
Because I really don't understand why we should be having a water break or hydration or cooling break commercial. What is that in football?
Okay, guys, let's get into the game real quick. We don't have time.
Okay.
Canada taking on Bosnia. Let me start off with you, Jude.
I think that if there's usually a group of death in a competition, you'd probably look at Group B and say maybe it's a group of life, in the sense that it's a reverse of everything a group of death stands for, because these are teams that are generally not top footballing nations, but Switzerland, I expect them to win the group and win it quite comfortably. Canada will be counting on their home support to be able to go quite far themselves, but 2022 have not done much at the FIFA World Cup, and you can say same for Qatar, who hosted it the most previous edition, or the immediate one, and of course Bosnia, who have been in and out of the competition. So I think that Canada has just enough talent to see
who would have
Bosnia
been in this
side.
group? Italy.
Oh, you have to stop.
Bosnia took Italy's place.
And that's the point, because again, we are sometimes very quick to brush them aside. But
you mean Bosnia?
Yes, to have the mental fortitude to, and I think their previous two qualifiers ended in penalty kicks.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure. I have to cross-check that. But for me, to even go past this Italian side speaks to your mental fortitude as a country, because clearly on paper, player for player, they don't match this Italian side, but they got the most important job done. And mind you, the Italians really wanted it, having missed the 2022 edition.
Yeah, and
so,
the 2018.
So to beat them, it meant that you were on top of your game. So it will be foolhardy to write them off yet. But I think that the competition also brings a different kind of level to the game. And sometimes if you are off pace, it's really to catch up. Canada have been preparing their entire life for this, I can tell you, right? And they have some players in their ranks to help them achieve that aim, right? Their captain will be coming into this particular game with a lot of confidence. Then there's Switzerland and also Qatar.
Yeah, quickly on that one.
I think Switzerland have enough talent, right? So the likes of Akanji, in there, a few other good attacking options for them as well. So I think that they have what it takes to go past this Qatar side, despite they also having a good showing at the last World Cup. But again, I'm not sure how they are going to catch up with the weather in Toronto. The last I checked, it was a lot more colder than the other areas, right? So for example, in Guadalajara, where Czech and South Korea played, and even in Mexico City, where the opening game was held. And of course, we've heard of the temperature concerns in America itself. So I don't see how Qatar will be able to keep
go
up.
Past Switzerland?
Yeah,
You don't think that the experience from the last World Cup will help?
No,
you don't have it.
If that was the case, Italy would have had after
game,
winning 22-6 the 2-6 World Cup, they would have probably been.
The opening game they actually lost, right? They lost to Ecuador by 2-0. I mean,
but they did quite well.
Not bad.
Not bad.
They didn't get any points in that group. They didn't.
They played.
They actually scored one goal, but they didn't.
At the point they were playing entertaining football. I'll need to check out their stats.
If you're
again.
playing entertaining football, you're not progressing.
Nobody gave them a dog chance anyway.
One thing I've realized about the tournaments, right? You need to be calculated.
Yeah.
You can't be all expansive and then what's there to show for? Nothing. You get exactly. But Bernard, just quick thoughts on this Canadian team.
I like the point you use. This should be, if you're a manager in this group,
you start calculating.
You have to calculate. You have to
get
know
your way out of the
you
group.
have to know.
And especially one of the host nations. Definitely there'll be pressure on them
absolutely,
to progress.
Because this is a lightweight group. If it's in boxing, it's a lightweight division. Or maybe a bantamweight division, because you check the weights of these clubs. And I understand that Switzerland, but you might have brilliant names in your setup. If they are not playing as a unit, which is needed in football, it always goes against you. It is why Canada needs to produce that magic, especially in this opener, right before their fans, to get that all-important result. You didn't qualify through the qualifying stages to get into this tournament. You were given the hosting rights and automatically granted you that permission to stay
and
in the World Cup.
To add that Switzerland are the highly ranked nation in that group.
Absolutely. Yeah. So then it's lies on Canada, or they would have to go sit down and think about what the fans will be imagining. If they should have their first win in a World Cup that they are hosting, and in 2026. So for me,
you think Canada will win?
I think Canada should win. Okay. I don't think Canada.
Switzerland will win this
group
they
should.
Pretty easy.
I like
that.
Let's
probably win all 3 games.
Yeah, let's
and
get
Canada would get some win and a draw somewhere, which would be enough to take them to the second round.
I want us to do numbers. Let's put numbers to the fixtures coming up later today, and then we take the show home. Let me start off with you, Bernard. Canada taking on Bosnia.
Canada. Now I want Canada to win
1-0, 2-0, 2-1, 2-2.
2-1, yeah.
Okay.
We have in this World Cup the 3rd best placed team, so if you are not conceding a lot, it also improves your chances.
That's a good point. And also the yellow cards would play in at a point. If you are taking it,
that is why we are worried the host
left,
nation
right,
is having red card already.
It gets to, because the table, the 8 best 3rd place teams that will progress is beginning to take shape. So teams are winning their games. So the groups, all the teams that sit 3rd. In all the 12 groups. When you look at the part that ranks the 8 best, it's beginning to change because of the results that have come in. So, so for you, Canada to win, right?
2-1, yeah.
Okay. Jude, Qatar to Switzerland.
See, I think Canada, Bosnia will probably be a draw game. There are 2 evenly matched teams. I don't see how I don't think one is way up there. And
you think it's one of those mundane games to watch,
Pretty much, right? And maybe a lucky moment here and there. And,
somebody gets a 1-0.
Yeah, draw.
Oh, a 1-1? You want to stick with
possibly even 0-0. But hey, I mean, it's the World Cup. A lot can change. But I think Switzerland, Qatar, a pretty routine win for Switzerland. Canada will probably beat Qatar and get the 4 points to go. But I think that I see a draw in the first game in Group B and possibly a win for Switzerland.
Yes. Let me also mention that at 1 a.m. when we are asleep, USA will be taking on Paraguay. USA will be taking on Paraguay at 1 a.m.
No, I won't be asleep.
Jude says he won't be asleep, but when you are asleep,
I work in the night.
You work in the night. You're nocturnal.
This guy.
Well, let's just quick thoughts. Now thoughts. We have 60 seconds to leave the studio. So 30-30. But Jude. Snap thoughts.
USA win.
USA win against Paraguay. Julian Ciso is out. Your player plays for Strasbourg. He picked up an injury.
But there's also Pulisic in there
for the Americans.
For the Americans.
But I mean, there is a star-studded team though.
Yeah.
Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams.
Charlie.
Look. Unfortunately, this is a country that understands football in 2 ways. They call it soccer, and then they understand
they don't say football. Soccer.
Then they understand there's football.
Completely different.
And then they understand there's football. I feel for lovers who understand football and love football are passionate football fans. So those who be coming to that arena to support the USA, you would have to give them something important. So I feel for US to host a lot of the games, you need to start right. And this team would have to win later tomorrow, early tomorrow morning by maybe
by 3 a.m. the result.
Yeah, 3-0 to bring that spark.
Paraguay is not like a walkover.
I agree. But that's what I'm saying. If you have, you have the funds behind you. No, I agree. So, but if you have the funds behind you, you need to produce result. Well, and I hear some names you mentioned in there. Look, this is a country that has produced the Glimt, Dempsey's, and what have you, who came to the
London Donovan.
The London Donovan.
That guy. They didn't do anything.
No, look, they give us nerves when we played them
against them. I think there was a decent
Clint Dempsey had a very good Premier League campaign. Together the likes of Tim Howard, who was a long-serving keeper for Everton. So they did their own.
Okay, let's see if Christian Pulisic and his boys can get a good start at this year's World Cup. They take on Paraguay later. Tomorrow morning or dawn, 1 a.m. Yes, that's when the game will kick off. Coached by Mauricio Pochettino.
He's under pressure.
Mauricio Pochettino. He's Argentine.
He's not getting results.
Yeah,
and he's been questioning the way they understand football in their own country.
And a part of Canada, they are being coached by Jesse March. He's American, so you see the the switch in there. But that's our show for today. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back same time next week, and also we'll be coming away with some of the games right here on Channel 1 TV. It's the 23rd edition of the FIFA World Cup. Thank you guys, Bernard Abekoche and also Jude Duncan, and also you watching me from your homes. You sent us your messages. We appreciate you. Take care and bye-bye.